Next, we'll be hearing from Precious Phiri, who joins us from the Africa Center for Holistic Management in Zimbabwe. She's perhaps traveled the farthest to join us here.
Well, good morning. Salibonani. Yebo. That's how we greet back home. As it's been said, my name is Precious Phiri. Before I begin, let me really take this time to appreciate all of you for coming and to appreciate all the speakers and for all your efforts. To also appreciate Biodiversity for a Livable Climate, especially Seth, who connected us as Africa Center with this great group, and Adam and everybody who's been organizing. Yeah, thank you. While I'm on it, let me also greet my parents. I have an American family, an adopted family. They are my parents. I've known them for the past 9 years, and they flew in from Albuquerque, New Mexico. They are here, Judy and Bon. And if they can stand. Thank you. Well, so I'll begin. I'm a representative of the Africa Center for Holistic Management, and we have a privilege of working as a hub of the Savory Institute. And as a person, I've had the privilege to work directly under Alan Savory. And I don't take it lightly to be part of this big movement. And I think to know that everybody who's here doesn't take what we are doing lightly is such an honor. So we are based in Zimbabwe, as you can see, at the Victoria Falls town. We run a property there of about 3,200 hectares, which is a learning site for many people in Africa. So I'll talk a bit about Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, 80% of the livelihoods in the country depend on agriculture, and about 14 to 18% of the economy the agricultural sector makes the gross domestic product of the country of 14 to 18%. However, if we look at our map that I'm showing up there, there is 1%. These are approximations. I know there are a lot of people who have studied more about Zimbabwe more than me, but the 1% on the tip there, these are just representations. 1% of our land is arable, as in you can farm, there is enough rain and good soil. 9%, then again, it's rough estimates, but close. 9% is arable, but with help of irrigation. 90% of our land is good for rangeland, and it's catchment. And that's why for us in Zimbabwe, this means a lot. And to know that Alan Savory comes from Zimbabwe, and this technology of holistic management is from Zimbabwe, we are proudly rolling it out in Zimbabwe. However, we have a situation in most parts of our country, that is the kind of land that we have. Desertified, yet most people depend on livestock for wealth and for their economy and general livelihoods. On the other right, those are two women from what we call food aid, because where we work, there's drought, whether we have good rains or not, because the soil is not healthy, because the land is not healthy. So people are almost perpetually on food aid, but thankfully we are changing that. I'm just showing you the perspective. And this is a river at the peak of the rains. How does that look? Anybody would want to say anything? Sad. Rivers flash flood and they don't store water for a long time. On the other end, that is supposed to be your grazing area. So my work as Precious is to be involved with the tribal lands. But before I share my story on our work as Africa Center with communal people, I would like to share my personal story. That's me up there. I grew up in the communities and I happened to have the privilege of working in those communities. It wasn't easy, poverty-stricken, crops failed year after year, and we had to work in homes for food. And underneath there, we were orphaned very early, and I had to take care of all my other siblings in that kind of house. And I made it a point that as long as I get opportunity to change any rural person's life, that will be me, and no one should go through what I went through. And so I happened to join the Africa Center, and we work from a land base of 3,200 hectares, like I said. We train both communities and professionals. So we are the implementers on the ground. There's been a lot of science, and a lot of people spoke very well about holistic management, and I would like to share the implementation part of the story in Zimbabwe. So, as you know, we use livestock as a proxy for moving herds. And this was discovered by Alan, who's a long-standing biologist, as he worked in the wild. He noticed how big herds kept moving because of pack hunters. And we are using the same livestock that has been blamed for destroying rangelands and for destroying soils and for causing desertification to reverse that. So this is a livestock herd at our learning site, which is, right now we're running about 500 head of cattle and about 150 goats and a couple of sheep, all together in multi-species. So this is what happens when your herd has moved. It has mowed the ground, and we call this high animal impact, the hoof action. The soil has gained from dung and urine, and the livestock herds keep moving because we have herders or shepherds, if you like. Instead of using fire, yes, it does clear, but it clears even the living and the dead matter, which is what we need to keep our soil covered. So you can see that this is one of the sites that we monitored. We had a runaway fire. We just wanted to notice that, look at how the ground was there, and livestock had just gone through. But then when fire comes, it clears everything on the ground, which is what we need to build our soil. So our learning site is located in what we call the Hwange Communal Lands, which is where I come from. So generally, those are the statistics of how big our Hwange Communal Lands, tribal lands are. 180,000 people in total, living over 500,000 hectares of land. Poverty, running out of water, that's the story in the Matabele North region of Zimbabwe. Every year being a drought regardless of the rain or no rain. And because of food aid, people become beggars, and there's no pride in being given food. So having the passion to implement holistic land and livestock management to tribal lands, actually, let me first of all say, land degradation is a big social issue for people who depend entirely on land and livestock. That being a social issue, you don't just go to communal people and say, we are going to start doing this. We've had a good learning period until we found this way of mobilizing. We call it the community action cycle, which introduces the issue of land restoration, but in a contextually relevant setup. We call our program the Livelihoods, Food and Water Security Restoration by Reversing Desertification, because people want to know, what is in it for me and my family? We don't have food. Thank you, I know the land is desertifying, but what is it to do with me? You will have enough food. You have enough food for your livestock. You can educate your kids. And while doing that, we are busy building our soil and returning back to our pride of being able to feed each other. So this is a very long process, but we have noticed that rolling it out using this community action cycle has given us astounding results. So I'll talk a bit, okay, let's go back to that man. This is the leader of a community, and these are the important people. If they don't approve you, you are not getting in. But when they say, yes, we understand what you're saying, the communities tend to naturally follow. Okay, so since 1992, when we began working as the Africa Center for Holistic Management, we have impacted at least 72,000 hectares of land in the Hwange Communal Lands. This is directly as Africa Center for Holistic Management. And 19,222 individuals in 20 communities, or these are big clusters that will then agree to implement holistic management. So we also have a program where we work with other partners. We developed a good curriculum. We call it Holistic Land and Livestock Management, which is we're going to manage our land as a whole, but using the tool of livestock. And so we have trained at least 92 professional facilitators from 15 organizations in 68 communities. That's where they are working. And these 15 organizations are from at least 15 countries in Africa, just from the small part of Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls. And about 2 million hectares of land has been impacted by these partners. And the work is still a lot more, and we are going forward. So this is just a map showing where we have impacted. From Burkina Faso, we get reports in French, and we have to translate them. Oh, okay, let me go back. And Nigeria, we have the Fulan tribe, who are pastoralists, and a lot other countries, so I'll just leave there. And then this is just our learning site example. Seth, showed it sometime when we began. So this is just a portion. I won't stay much here because I think you are aware of what holistic management does. There we go. We put a high animal impact. So let's just watch the change. This is the change by 2014. This is how it looked like. Okay. And then, so through grazing planning and the whole rolling out of the holistic management in communities, that is a communal member, they are totally responsible due to the way we roll out the program. It's socially respecting of the community, respecting the knowledge that they have, and we build on what they know, introducing new knowledge if there be. So they do their own maps. We don't have GPS, we don't have computers, and we draw on a khaki paper. They know their land better than anybody else. You just facilitate, and they do the drawing. They tell you this mountain is there and this is there. We plan on a chart. They count their livestock by themselves. They even indicate, I know there are some ranchers who do holistic plant grazing, so they even indicate, here there is bear land, here there are lions, we should watch out for ticks at this time. They know all that process because we have an intensive training. So these are some of the results that we have seen. But firstly, let me just show you, this is a river in our learning site, and this is a river in the communal lands, one that has not begun to practice. I want to show you, I'm showing you this picture so that I show you, that is a communal river. This is the river at the learning site. We call it Dimbangombe. Dimbangombe meaning tall grass for cattle. So here is another community that implemented holistic plant grazing from 2007. Here is their river. It's not quite like Dimbangombe because this is a communal setup, but definitely they have stopped the cutting back of the big gully. They now have water. This was taken in September 2014. Around 2009, this river would have been dry, flash flooded by around April, May, but now, October, from 2012, we've seen the river having these pools and running all year round. And it's a big thing for that community because they hadn't seen it happening in a long time. So one of the communities which was our poorest and most difficult, called Sianyanga, which is where I come from, they healed their land from 40% bare ground in 2005 to 8% bare ground in 2007. We monitor together with the community using the simplest ways of forage assessment. And here's another one of the communities called Sizinda. There is a section that is not under holistic plant grazing. Look at this is peak of the rains, but already look at the ground, how the grass looks like. And here is their area, which is under holistic plant grazing. There is grass. Most of these communities were bare, 100% bare. And here is one in Sianyanga, 2006, same spot, You can see it was during the rains, there's just algae and total hard compacted soil. But by 2011, a whole carpet. We didn't plant that grass. Livestock did, and community members did by their management. So in background, that's a graph that will just show you that background has been decreasing steadily from 2001 up to 2013. This is just up to 2013, but I want you to note something. In 2010, at our learning site, we had a breakout fire. It was a wildfire from a neighboring property. Look at that. Already background goes up, but because we got back to our management system, it went back down again. Animal days per hectare, which is assessment of forage, usually it's higher on areas that are practicing holistic management than on areas that are not. So red is holistic plant grazing areas, and the blue being the control. What we do with communities, there's a lot of knowledge sharing and training. It's interesting, I like sharing these photos because it happens in different settings. Here, we would probably do it in an auditorium like this, but in Zimbabwe, we do it under trees, and it works. We all sit down. In some instances, we do it under the sun. Because there is no tree, we need to bring our little carrying boards for training. Communities are masters of their land. They can show anybody and tell their own story. From where they began, here they were hosting a group which was coming to learn from one of our partners that we work with. Balbina Nyoni, this is a phenomenal woman. We work with women, men, children, youth, old people. Balbina has a story. It's called the biting ant story. These ants in Sianyanga, they were a problem because the land was bare and there was nothing to eat. They were therefore eating people, tours, goat kids. In this area, there are no snakes, like big snakes, because they used to be eaten by these ants. But then right now, you see the ants under the grass and they don't bother to come to you because the land has been restored. And Balbina is a champion for that. She's a chairperson right now leading the grazing scheme. These are new soil heroes. We work with the youth, herders, or shepherds. This is Miss Maroa from Chisuko Grazing, which is in the eastern highlands of Manicaland, called Chimanimani. She joined the program first with three head of cattle, but now she boasts with, after 1.5 years, she has 4. And she's looking forward to growth, and she has increased even her goats. And these are ordinary women from the community. Because of the nature of the program, the development goes on and we outsource water facilities. Communities have a water need. While we are doing the long-term process of bringing rivers back, we have to have an interim plan. So this is all part of the economic development, infrastructural development to support the programs at grassroots communal level. And the water points tend to support income generation by way of gardening. In their gardens, they help them manage the program, which creates a program fund. They contribute towards, taking care of their water points, towards taking care of their livestock, because that we believe is true development, to have communities taking charge in every sense of the word. So I'm going to share a story of, which is sort of a branching. We heal rangelands, but also we heal crop fields, which is a side benefit. There are side effects of pills. This is a side effect of holistic plant grazing and heading. So they put animals in enclosures in their crop fields. Our staple food is sadza, which is made of cornmeal. So they have cornfields. So after impacting, you put your livestock directly in your field, and then the planting begins using zero tillage, conservation agriculture. We work with experts from the Ministry of Agriculture, and the growth begins. These are poor soils in the poorest regions of rain. This is one of our field guys. His name is Oscar. And let's compare. Let's look at the results already. This would have been planted on the same day. I saw some pictures of maize yesterday. There is the treated site, and there is the control. This is one of our partners we implemented in Chikomba district, the Masvingo area of Zimbabwe. There is the treated, and there is the control. This would have been planted same day, same seed, same everything. And the results usually, crop fields are more productive 2 to 4 times more. This is a big thing for communities because if you can feed your family, you are a proud person, woman or man. And now I'm going to share a bit on our training and outreach. So due to this developing holistic land and livestock management for communities, we've had the rarest opportunity and privilege to then engage other training partners all around Africa. And I'm part of that team. This was one of the group that had come to be trained in our ranch. This man here is called Mdawini. He's our senior head at the learning side, and we call him Professor Mdawini because he knows his rangeland. And so we had just gone from a 6-hour heading exercise. So the training program goes like this. We have partnership agreements, and we implement a training program. At the implementation, as people go to implement, we designed what we call a program monitoring and mentoring support, which is like a follow-up just to make sure that the implementation is successful, and then that spirals and grows, and then communities keep buying in and organizations keep buying in, and we are a big hub now of training in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, and some parts of East Africa. We actually have a lot of requisitions right now for trainings, so our next year is pretty full. So we deliver to diverse groups. That is a Kenyan man in that head, and the man in the front is a professor in Burkina Faso. Land monitoring training, this was at a South African hub. And then header session, we're just showing them how we lead livestock in heading. Okay, so I'll share just some recognitions that we've had as ACHM. The Buckminster Fuller Challenge Award, we got it in 2010. And this year in June, in London, we got the Water and Food Award, which was awarded to somebody who's addressing, a deserving person addressing water and food issues. There it was the person deserving who's doing the best to address man's or humankind's most pressing problems. So yes, we restore grasslands using livestock, but we also do that to enhance livelihoods while addressing desertification. So we've always said to the communities, choose where you want to be, here or here. So maybe I'll ask you the same. Where do you want to be? Where? There. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for giving us a Zimbabwe chance. Thank you. Thank you.